האישה שמת ולדה בתוך מאיה. So we're holding tractate Chullin for the 4th chapter. The name of the chapter is Beheimah Hamekashah, 71a3, Ayin Aleph in the Mishnah. So, Haisha shemet velada betoch me'ea, if a woman fetus died inside her womb, but what they call in America stillborn, ufashta chayait yadav v'nagabo, and the midwife extended her hand into the womb and touched the baby, the dead baby. Achayat mea tumat shiva. The midwife is tameh. What type of tumah? 7-day tumah, 7 day of impurity. Va'isha teorah ad shetzeh avlad. But the woman who is pregnant with the dead baby is not impure. Only when the baby comes out, then she becomes tameh. Then she becomes impure. Amar Rabba, keshem shetumah beluah ina metama, kach teorah beluah ina metama. Just as tameh object that is swallowed up does not transmit tumah to other objects. Meaning, if you're eating something that is tameh, something that is impure, you don't, and I touch you, I shake your hand, I'm not becoming tameh. Ta'ara v'lo ina mitama. So too, a tahor object that is swallowed up does not acquire tumah from other objects. So if a tameh person swallowed a pure object and then I guess spit it out, he's not making it tameh. By being swallowed, it's not considered tameh. Tumah v'lo min alan. So the Gemara wants to know, where do you take it from? Where is it from? Where is your sources? You have to have a source, right? Where is it coming from? From where do we derive that a swallowed up tameh object does not transmit tumah? Maybe it does. It is written regarding nevela, and one who eats from its carcass shall immerse himself and his clothing, and shall remain tameh until the evening. Okay? A dead animal, or even a dead body. A dead body is called a corpse, and a carcass is for an animal. So it says the pasuk teaches that when one eats nevela, not only he himself, but even his clothing is tameh. Okay? The clothing also requires immersion in a mikvah. They need to be dipped in the mikvah. Actually, if one eats nevela without touching or lifting it, but by having someone else thrust it down his throat, somebody puts it in his throat, nevela, right? He's feeding him, he's force feeding him. He didn't touch it, somebody put it in his mouth. He remains tahor. He is not tameh. The verse, however, refers to the ordinary case of an eater who lifted the nevela into his mouth. He touched it, thus contracting tumah through touching or carrying it. We're not dealing in this verse even with the case where one ate the nevela just before sunset and then immersed himself immediately. Because there's two things. There is a concept of purifying yourself through going to the mikvah, but many cases mikvah is not sufficient. You have to also wait for the evening. So what happened if he was contaminated before, went to the mikvah, and it's the evening already? And the merciful one says that he is tahor at sunset. Even though the nevela has not yet been digested, but why does the undigested nevela in his stomach not contaminate him? Perforce, it is because a tameh object that is swallowed up does not transmit tumor. So the reason why is tahor, because he never became tameh. Meaning, since it's not digested, he's not tameh. If it was digested, so if he just ate it, it's definitely not digested yet, right? He's eating a piece of meat. Some say that it takes 24 hours to completely digest meat. That's why people get fat, because they eat steak today, and then they eat, after a couple of hours, they eat another steak. So the first steak is not digested. Now they're into the second steak and the third, and that's how the body gains, because the body didn't get rid of the first one. Even though, so it says, even though the nevela has not yet been digested, why does the undigested nevela in his stomach not contaminate him? Perforce it is because a tameh object that is swallowed up does not transmit tumor. But perhaps there it is for a different reason that the nevela does not contaminate the eater, namely because it is unfit to be eaten by a resident, i.e. a human, and nevela that became unfit for humans no longer transmit tumor. So over here we're trying to say that we are differentiating between something that is edible and something that is not edible. If it's something that is edible, then it transmits tumor. If it's not edible, maybe it doesn't transmit tumor. A human and a nevela that became unfit for humans no longer transmit tumor. All is well according to Rabbi Yochanan, who said that both regarding this one and that one, i.e. the capacity of nevela to contaminate people as well as its capacity to contaminate foods, it continues to transmit tumor until it becomes unfit for consumption by dog. Shapir, according to this view, your proof fits well, for although nevela that has been swallowed is no longer fit for human consumption, it would be disgorged. It would still be fit for consumption by a dog if, God forbid, you spit it out. I mean, God forbid, we want you to spit it out. It's nevela, right? If he spits it out, it's not good for human being. Human being is not going to eat it, but the dog might eat it, right? The reason it no longer contaminates the eater must be because a swallowed up tumor cannot convey tumor. But according to Rav Pada, who said, Tumah chamura leger, regarding severe tumor, the contamination of people, nevela retains its capacity only as long as it is fit for consumption by human resident. And only regarding light tumor, the contamination of foods, does it retain its capacity until it becomes unfit for consumption by a dog. Your proof does not fit well. The reason the person who swallowed a nevela and then immersed is not contaminated by it after nightfall may be, the reason why is not tameh mishum delo chazil legeru, because it is unfit for consumption by human residents, and thus no longer has the capacity to contaminate people. How can you assume that the reason is because the nevela is swallowed up? The Gemara rejects the assumption that swallowed food is unfit for further consumption by humans. It is granted that swallowed food is unfit to be consumed by a person when it was swallowed and then this grogged in his presence. But when it was swallowed and this grogged not in his presence, meaning somebody tried to chew something and before he had a chance to chew it, he was coughing or something and he spit it out. Now to you it's disgusting. But if someone else comes and he doesn't know what was the history of this apple, So he might think it's edible. He might think it's fit for consumption. But when it was swallowed and this grogged, not in his presence, it can sometimes be fit for consumption by him. When the Torah indicates that even a person who has undigested nevela in his stomach becomes tahor upon nightfall, its reason must be that a swallowed up tumah does not convey tumah at all. The Gemara inquires further after Rabba's source. Ashkechan tumah belua. We have found a source for the rule that a swallowed up tameh object does not transmit tumah. Tahara belua minalan. From where do we derive that a swallowed up tahor object does not acquire tumah? So again, it's not true that it's swallowed up. Kal v'chomer. If even an earthenware vessel, let's say that this is made out of clay, out of earth, whose opening is closed all around. You have a lid, it's sealed with a cover that is fastened onto it. You ever watched a barrel, how they seal the barrel? They put a lid, and there's something that they seal it completely on the top. When it comes to earthenware vessel, whose opening is closed all around with a cover that is fastened onto it, which does not spare a tameh object that is swallowed up within it from transmitting tumah. For the Master said in the Mishnah that when tumah is compressed in the ground, it breaks through the ground and ascends up into the sky, and the same certainly applies to tumah contained in a vessel. It says in 32, the Mishnah in Olos, the law is that when a corpse is buried in a cave containing at least a tefach of open space, say 5 inches of open space, the tumah of that corpse remains contained within the cave, since it is under its own roof. It has a roof. If there is not a tefach of open space above the corpse, so that the tumah is compressed, so to speak, right, in parentheses compressed, the ceiling of the cave does not qualify as a roof that can contain tumah, and the tumah breaks through it, contaminating anybody or anything that is above it, even up to the sky. So we see a difference between if it has an open space of tefach or it doesn't have an open space. If it doesn't have an open space, all the air right above it becomes tameh, and if you're flying over it, it becomes tameh.
What if there's like a tree cover or something like it's under a tree? Would that cover it up like a sukkah?
No, I think it's specifically about a cave. Somebody is in a cave. Now, even a Kohanim are trying to avoid many times to fly over cemeteries. Kohanim have to have more. And now everybody is contaminated. The tumah of a corpse, everybody is contaminated. You're born in a hospital. Washing the hands takes care of a different tumah, but it doesn't. This tumah, we need the parah aduma, the red heifer. We need to be sprinkled with the red heifer to get rid of the tumah, the corpse impurity. And it's only in the time of Mashiach. It says in the bottom of 32, now even a compressed tumah is in effect swallowed up in the ground, since it nevertheless contaminates anything above it. We see that being swallowed up by the earth does not prevent a tameh object from transmitting its tumah. Certainly then, being swallowed up in a vessel does not prevent a Tameh object from transmitting Tumah. The Gemara says, Matzil al Tahor shebeseichum l'Tameh. Nevertheless, it spares a Tahor object that is inside it from acquiring Tumah, as stated in Scripture. Odom shematzil al Tumah shebeseichum l'Tameh. Regarding a person who does spare a Tameh object that is swallowed up within him from transmitting Tumah, as we demonstrated above. For we proved from Scripture that when one swallows Nevela, it immediately loses its capacity to contaminate him. Is it not logical that if a person is able to stop, let's say this grape is impure, and I swallowed it, it stopped transmitting Tumah. If I touch it, I become Tumah. But let's say I open my mouth, you threw it into my mouth, it stopped transmitting Tumah. So how much more so when a Torah object goes into a person that is Tumah, that it shouldn't be transmitting Tumah.
But the difference is that in the stomach is digesting already, no? It's the process.
No, even if before it's digested. It says it is not logical. Is it not logical that he spares a tahor object that is swallowed up within him from acquiring tumah?
But if it's not bishlak, it's not bishlak. What if it's trying to be modest? If it's trying to be, if it's not bishlak, or if it's not bishlak.
If I can spare, as we said, this olive, meaning to stop it, I can
refrain.
It's the same idea. If somebody wants to, imagine someone walks into the room and he slaps you, he slaps him, and he doesn't slap you. It's called he spared you. Yeah. So he instead. So over here in this case, we are able to protect. If this was not toher and I swallowed it, it stops it from transmitting tumah. So it says, is it not logical that he spares a toher object that is swallowed up within him from acquiring tumah? You stopped it from giving tumah, so also by swallowing something that is toher, even if you're tumah, that you should stop. The act of swallowing should not transmit tumah from something that is tumah to that. Malich licheres, what comparison can be made to an earthenware vessel, sheken eno mitama megaboy, which is lenient in that it does not acquire tumah through its exterior. When it comes to earthenware vessel, they are susceptible to tumah if it goes inside, not from its exterior. It is therefore not surprising. It's not surprising that the Torah gave it the additional leniency of sparing that which is sealed inside it from tumah. That the content of what's in the barrel, the earthenware vessel, is saved because it's sealed, right? It's not becoming tumah. But we can say this especially about an earthenware vessel, because an earthenware vessel only contract tumah from inside, not from the exterior. In general, earthenware vessel, they are very unique, because if they become tameh, you have to break them in order to. There's no way to correct it. So we're holding in 71b1. It says, will you say that this also regarding a person who is more stringent in that he does acquire tumah through his exterior? A human being does acquire tumah through his exterior. So in other words, the Gemara says, why are you comparing an earthenware vessel to a human being? The earthenware vessel is more lenient than a human being. We are saying anything about deriving law of a person's exterior from that of an earthenware vessel. We're not dealing with the exterior, the Gemara says. We are saying that we derive the law of a person's interior from that of an earthenware vessel interior. We are comparing the interior to the interior. For we reason that just as a Torah object enclosed within an earthenware vessel are spared from Tumah, so too our Torah object engulfed within a person, spared from Tumah. The Gemara says, Adrabah, to the contrary, Kli Cheres Chomu. Kli Cheres is worse. Why? It's more stringent when it comes to an earthenware vessel. Why? Since it acquires Tumah by having a sheret suspended in its interior airspace. So if this was a sheret, and and let's say it's an earthenware vessel that is open, so just by the airspace it transmits Tumah. And this is susceptible to Tumah when it comes to an earthenware vessel. It contains or retract Tumah even through the airspace, which is more stringent.
Isn't there a Tumah from the time you harvest whatever fruit, vegetable?
No, that's we mentioned that these are the first foods, the first 3 years of a tree. It's called orla. They have a Tumah. We're not allowed to eat them or benefit from them in any way.
Right. But I'm just saying in general, I'm taking something from the tree, like an apple or a pear, right? It's living. Taking it off the tree, it technically becomes dead. It's no longer attached to the tree.
Right.
So then we say a blessing, which now elevates that fruit.
So we learned that if you took an apple from the tree, for example,
Right. It was living, now it's dead.
it's not tummy, but if you washed it with water, now it becomes susceptible to tumah.
Oh, okay.
If it's wet, it becomes susceptible. It's not tummy, but if a sheret, meaning a creepy crawler, an insect,
Right.
touches a fruit that is on the tree, it does nothing to it. As long as it's attached to the tree, nothing to it. But if
There's a hole there or it makes a hole, then it becomes tummy.
I don't know if it's tumah, you can argue that you can cut off that piece and remove it. Anyway, that's not the discussion. He says, since it acquires tumah by having a sheret suspended in its interior airspace, whereas a person does not acquire tumah from a sheret. If a sheret flies over my head, I'm not becoming tumah from that sheret. Unless it touches him, but not if it is merely suspended inside him. The Kal Vachomer is valid as follows. If even the interior, in other words, the Gemara wants to say that it's relevant to compare earthenware vessel to us. If even the interior of an earthenware vessel, which does not spare a tameh object that engulfs from transmitting tumah, spares a tahor object that is engulfs from acquiring tumah, even certainly a person who does spare a tameh object that engulfs from transmitting tumah, also spares a tahor object that it engulfs from acquiring tumah. The Gemara investigates the source for a further application of Rabba's principle. Ashkechan balua de l'mayla. We have found a source for the rule that an object swallowed up by a person via the upper body orifice, right? Is it orifice?
Yeah. Orifice.
The mouth neither transmit nor acquires tumah. Balua de l'mato menal. And from where do we derive that the same applies to an object swallowed up via the lower orifice, the rectum? If somebody shoved in something from below that is not tumah, that is tumah, the same applies. That is, it's like swallowed up. Kal vachomer, it is a kal vachomer. If even the upper part of the body which does not accomplish digestion, if you leave something in your mouth, there's no digestion that is being done. Matzil spares an object that it swallows up from transmitting and acquiring tumah. The matashena is the lower part of the body which does not accomplish digestion also. Einodin shematzil, is it not logical that it should spare an object that is swallowed up from transmitting and acquiring tumah? Does the lower part of the body even digest anything except when it is swallowed up by the way of the upper part? Nevertheless, the digestion effected by the lower part of the body is more substantial. Why? It says, I'm going to read 8 and 9. It says, since the intestines digest only that which enters by way of the mouth, the fact that they do digest should not be a factor with respect to nullifying an object that enters them from below. Although the intestines digest only that which comes to them through the mouth, since the mouth by chewing food accomplishes only a minor portion of the digestive process, and the intestines achieve the major portion. This also teaches us about dieting. You know, the hardest part for the body, even if you chew the food well, it's a big burden for the intestines to deal with what you're putting in. That's why it's always good to put things that are easier for the body to deal with, to digest. If you eat things that are very difficult for your body to digest, there's a lot of issues. Digestive system becomes weak because it works so hard to digest the food that your immune system is not working properly because the stomach is occupied with dealing with all that food that you just put in. So it makes it harder for the body to be energized and so on. And then somebody eats the same food again and again and again and again. Imagine what happens to the body.
So why do we keep eating arugula? All the cakes.
The idea is to control yourself and to eat very little. The Rambam writes that it's better to eat something that is not healthy and a little bit than eating a lot of a healthy thing. For example, spinach is healthy for you, broccoli is healthy for you. Let's say, everybody agree? And if I eat a pound or 2 pounds of broccoli, it could be harmful to me. Eat too much of it could be bad for you. Now, if I eat a piece of a small piece of cake, it's not as bad as eating 2 pounds of broccoli. If you eat a normal meal, small amount of not too much of vegetation, and not too much of carbs, not too much of protein. That's a balanced meal. That's the best, right? Although the intestine digests only that which comes to them through the mouth, since the mouth, by chewing food, accomplishes only a minor portion of the digestive process, and the intestines achieve the major portion. The logic of Kal Vachomer litigates for the intestines themselves to render an item swallowed up nullified, even when it does not enter via the mouth. The Gemara says, Ashkechan balua de'odom balua de'veim minalan. What about something that was swallowed by an animal? The Gemara says, Kal Vachomer, umadam shemetam v'chaim, if even a person who can become tameh while alive, Matzi bevalua spares an object that is swallowed up. An animal which cannot become tameh while alive. An animal is not tameh while is alive. You're touching a cow. It's alive. It doesn't make you tameh. Is it not logical that it should spare an object that is swallowed up within it from transmitting or acquiring tumah? The Gemara says, the Gemara object malo odom sheken tzarich shir b'vayis hamenuga. When it comes to a human being, what comparison can be made to a person who is lenient in that he requires lingering in a tsaras afflicted house in order to contaminate his clothing? Since he is subject to this leniency, it says in 13, Leviticus chapter 14, 33, verse 33, 53, the Torah details the laws of a house that contracts tsaras and contaminates people or object that are inside that house. The Torah distinguishes between the lesser tumah contracted by a person who briefly enters the house and the more severe tumah contracted by one who lies down or eats there. There's a difference between somebody walking into a house that had tsaras, that had leprosy, if he just walks in and out, or a guy that sits there and spends time in that house. who lingers in the house for the duration of time that it would take to eat half loaf of bread, if one enters the afflicted house briefly, his body becomes tumah, but his clothes remain tahor. By contrast, if one lingers in the house, he stays for a long time, he is affected with tumah to the extent that even his clothes becoming tumah. Will you say that the same applies to an animal, which is stringent in that it does not require lingering in a tzaras afflicted house in order to contaminate clothing that it is carrying? If an animal walked into a house that is tumah, nothing happens to it. If we walk to a house that is afflicted with tzaras, with leprosy, then something happens to us. Obviously, depends on the time that we spend there.
Do we have to burn the clothing in any shape or form?
The lingering.
So he said enough time to eat half a loaf of bread. If you stayed enough time for what it would take you to eat half a loaf of bread, maybe it's 5 minutes, 6 minutes, depends on your technique, and and it depends on how accustomed are you to eat these quantities. So then you become your clothing also become tumah. What were we saying?
Isn't there certain times that you have to burn the clothing?
Yeah, if they are afflicted with tzaras, then we would burn them. The principle that an animal does not require lingering in a tzaras afflicted house, regarding what law was this is stated? What happens if an animal walks into a house that is afflicted with tzarat, but it has vessels on its back, has pots and pans on its back? What do you do then? They become tumah or not? Regarding the contamination of articles that are carried on top of it, the law states that such articles become tumah as soon as the animal enters the afflicted house, but an animal is not more stringent than a person in this regard. A person also does not require lingering in the tzaras afflicted house in order for articles that he is carrying to become contaminated. If I walk into afflicted house that is afflicted with tzaras, I walk with this bottle, automatically the bottle becomes tumah. I don't need lingering in the house. The lingering issue is just regarding the clothes.
And that doesn't matter.
So it doesn't make a difference if it's an animal that had vessels on top of it, or a human being. A person does not require lingering in tzaras afflicted house in order for articles that he is carrying to become contaminated. We learned in a brayso, if someone enters a house, afflicted house, right? And he has on his shoulders, he has articles on his shoulders, and he has garments. He's carrying garments on his shoulders. He's not wearing them, he's carrying garments. Maybe he has towels or garments, and his shoes, rings carried in his hands, rather than wearing them, he's not wearing them. He becomes tumah immediately, and anything that he's wearing, anything that he's holding in his hand, on his shoulders, garments, shoes, rings, they become tumah. If he was wearing his garments, and his shoes were on his feet, and his ring is on his finger, he becomes tumah immediately. The clothing we have to wait. Kedech pras is what I just said, a half a loaf of bread. So the Gemara says, pat chitim v'lo pasorim, wheat bread rather than barley bread. Why? Eaten while he is reclining and eating the bread together with a relish. The half a loaf, it says 19, is the amount of bread a person normally eats at one meal. I guess you combine everything. For the reference is to a standard 2 meal loaf suitable for use as an eruv tchumin. containing 8 egg volumes of bread. Half loaf contains 4 egg volumes. Wheat bread is eaten more quickly than barley bread, and that which is eaten in a reclining position is eaten quickly, since the person concentrates fully on the food and does not divert his attention to other things. Yeah, in Pesach you recline. Similarly, eating the bread together with a relish hastens its consumption and makes it faster. What exactly relish is, it's something that is accompanied to the bread. So the last part, hang in there. We're almost done.
I'm good.
You're good. Okay.
I'm lost a little bit, but I'm good.
Okay. What is it that you?
The beginning.
So ask for clarification.
What?
Ask questions if you have something.
No, because I need the representation. I need to bring the whole bread and eat it to understand. I have to do that.
You need an,
Stop watching and blocking.
No, I'm okay.
A person is no less stringent than an animal in regard to the contamination of article that he carries into a tzaras afflicted house, and the kal vachomer presented above is therefore valid. So us and animals have the same laws when we carry an object. I don't know what would be the law today. They have on dogs. They put sweaters on them. So they are. It's special.
It's a big
Yes, it's a special.
industry.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
So it's a special clothes for the dog. So if this can be considered a garment or not, that's. I guess I don't know if it happened at the time.
The horses have it too.
The horses have
But it
a
doesn't
blanket,
cold.
right?
Cold, yeah.
It doesn't matter because if it's tameh, the human is not going to wear that. It's the dog.
No, but if it's tameh, it transmits tumor.
To human.
But on horses, they put it just for the saddle. It shouldn't hurt its back. So I don't know if it's so much as a garment.
Is different. It's not
I don't know. Maybe it has also garments.
If an animal does become contaminated, how do you undo it?
The animal cannot become contaminated only when it's dead. Having found sources for every application of Rabba's principle, the Gemara cites a comment regarding them. Amar Rabba Tarbau Tenone. We have already learned both of Rabba principle in the Mishnah. Tuma v'lua tanina. The rule is that swallowed up tamei object does not transmit tuma. We learned in one teaching of a Mishnah. The Mishnah told it to us clearly. Tahara belua tanina, and the rule of that a swallowed up tohor object does not acquire tuma. We learned in another teaching of a Mishnah. The Gemara elaborates the first point. The Gemara elaborates the first point. Tuma v'lua, the rule that a swallowed up tamei object does not transmit tuma. We have already learned that nan. We learned in the Mishnah bol atabast meo, if a Kohen swallowed up a tamei ring, a ring that was tamei, he swallowed it up. And in 22 it says a ring that maybe he took it from a dead person. In the army, many times if they see dead soldiers, they see a guy wear a ring, they take it.
Or the metal,
right.
to prove who it is.
Right? But I don't know if it's called wearing so much. Oh, maybe a necklace, right?
Yeah.
So, and the Kohen, that's a Kohen. So it says a Kohen swallowed the tamei ring, swallowed it. Is he allowed to eat truma or is he not allowed to eat truma? Truma is consecrated food, holy food. Now this Kohen can eat it or not? He just swallowed up a ring that is tameh. It says tovel ve'ochel b'trumato. He may immerse in the mikvah. He has to go to the mikvah and later eat his truma, even though the ring is still inside his body. He still is allowed to eat truma. Hikio, if he later puked it, gorged it, Temeo v'tim'atoi. It is still tame. The ring remains tame, and has contaminated him. He becomes tame himself by touching him as it exited. We see that while the tame ring is swallowed up inside the person, it does not contaminate him, because we said he goes to the mikvah and that's it.
Like the baby from the woman.
Right.
When it's inside, it's
Once it goes out, tehoro v'lo tanina, the rule that a swallowed up toil object does not acquire tuma. We have also learned that none, for we learned in an earlier clause of the self-same Mishnah, bola tabas toiro v'nichas lo meit, if one swallowed a tahor ring and then entered a tent containing a corpse. So there was a dead person in a tent, inside the tent. Somebody swallowed up a tahor ring. Pure ring. You take off your ring, you swallowed it, and you walk into that tent. Is the ring inside your stomach becomes tameh? You become tameh for sure. But the ring inside your stomach become tameh or not?
Let's see.
It depends how long.
The bread. The size of the bread.
Yeah.
It says, if one swallowed up a tahor ring and then entered a tent containing a corpse, vehizov v'shon v'toval, and he was sprinkled with purification waters. That's the water of the parah aduma, right? The red heifer. It mixed with water, and he was sprinkled with the water. You need to be purified because he entered a tent that a corpse was there, a dead person was there. And he was sprinkled purification waters on the third day, and he was sprinkled repeated on the seventh day. That's the procedure, the third and the seventh day. And immersed in the mikveh to complete his purification process. Veikio, and then he disgorged the ring. Arei kama shoisa, meaning he vomited.
Yeah. But I was trying to look for that word in Spanish. I never heard it before.
I think it's coming from like you gargle, right? You gargle. So gargle is like keeping it in the mouth, and this gorge is.
The gorge is also, I think, like a violent water stream in the mountains when it's like just gushing water. So it's like when it gushes out of you
Right.
fast.
Extraer.
So
Extract.
what is the problem here? What is the problem here? While he had it in his stomach, he had it in his stomach for a week. He went through the purification process. Now, if I say that the ring become tameh, then he's tameh again because he just puked it, he just vomited, then he should become tameh. But if we say that the ring didn't become, that the ring remained pure, then it's not a problem. Or we can say that the ring was also tameh when it went into him, it became tameh, but by going to the mikvah, it became pure again. So we have all these different possibilities. Arei kama shoisa. So what's easier, the financial analysis you do, or this?
What I see is like it all depends on the environment where it is.
Oh, not all the time. Sometimes it connected with the environment, sometimes not.
Oh, we found the translation.
So what is it in Spanish?
Vomit.
Vomit, yeah. So it is in the, so, and he then disgorged the ring. Arei kama shoiso. It is in its original state of tahara, for it was never contaminated. That's what we say. The fact that he had something in his stomach, that ring, and he went into the tent, he became contaminated. The ring never became contaminated. We see that while the ring is swallowed up, it cannot acquire tumah, since the Mishnah has already taught that a swallowed up object neither transmit nor acquires tumah. Why did Rabbah informs us? Why did Rabbah say that the swallowed up object does not acquire tumah? Kigon shebola shtei boys. He said regarding a case, becomes more interesting, where someone swallowed two rings. Achas tmeh v'achas teiro. Now he swallowed one ring that is tameh and one ring that is tahor. Okay? You have two rings in his stomach now. One for his wife and one is the ex.
Is this life risk?
What?
Is it a life risk? You're just eating rings now.
Well, maybe she had a pinky ring that is very small. Okay? So, one that is Tomei and one that is Torah, so that the Tomei and Torah object are together in his stomach. The Rabbi informs us that even so, the Tomei ring does not contaminate the Torah ring. They are two together, they are in the stomach now.
Right.
Because, that's the answer, because swallowed up items are completely precluded from transmitting or acquiring tumah. They are outside of this.
Did anybody have to witness any part of the cleansing process?
Yeah, because the sprinkling, for example, was done by a Kohen.
Okay.
He would sprinkle on the other guys, of course.